Welcome to the Innovation Squadcast, making a positive difference in learning through innovation.
Welcome to Innovation Squadcast and the first episode of our exciting new series of the Berkeley County School District's essential work and life skills. Imagine a classroom where unexpected challenges are met with excitement rather than frustration. Picture students who confidently navigate change and teachers who turn surprises into powerful learning moments. Today we're talking about adaptability, a cornerstone skill in our rapidly evolving world. Join us as we explore practical strategies to cultivate this strength, transforming how we teach and prepare our students for a future where we can only dare to imagine. Stay tuned throughout this year as we dive into BCSD's work and life skills, equipping our educators and students for success in the classroom and beyond. I am Jimmy Kate.
And I'm Pam Hubler.
And we are Innovative Learning Coordinators at Berkeley County School District. And you've probably seen the Berkeley County work and life skills poster up in your school. And we just thought we could highlight some of these and how we can work those into our curriculum, work them into, what you've got going on in your daily practices. So we're going to give you some kind of tips and tricks and just kind of go through kind of, how we go about building adaptability with our students, which is a kind of important skill. If you think about your daily life and how you work and everything else, the people that are adaptable easily roll with the punches. They can, they're okay with that plan B. They thrive in plan B sometimes. And that's an important work and life skill. So
you just described me.
Yeah.
Should we go through all of them just so everyone knows?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, if you don't see this all the time, you might not remember.
Bill, if you want to switch to the screen really quick. And yeah, so we're going to go through these different skills throughout the year in different episodes. And today, again, we're focused on adaptability, but we're going to be focusing on, and you can see the actual definition there, the ability to respond effectively based on circumstances, environments, or demands to solve problems. And so that's adaptability. And then we've got critical thinking, initiative, communicate, advocacy, resilience, collaboration. Is there one more below that one? I can't remember. I think that's the last one. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. So, yep. So those are going to be our episodes. We'll sprinkle out through the year during the podcast as well. So. And
they are all the things that we use on a daily basis as adults. So yes. I'm glad that we have that as a part of our day-to-day. So
yes, and I think you could probably think of a ton of examples in how you've used it in your education, how you've used it in work, how you've used it at home, and it's something that I don't think we think about sometimes. But when we're trying to help our students become the best versions of themselves, right? We're supporting that student-driven learning experience and the potential in education. Adaptability is something that can absolutely do that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And when you look at our vision of, creating a future we dare to imagine and making a positive difference, think about how students can be successful if they're adaptable in their daily lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's something I think, like you said, you don't think about those things.
Right.
And you also don't realize that's what you're doing.
Yes.
Like until we did the Gallup strengths as a team. I think all the district leaders, a lot of them did that. And I didn't realize that adaptability was, because it's my number 2, I think, of my top 5.
Right. I think it's 19 for me.
So I didn't realize that it could be a strength, where adaptability can sometimes come across as being like, you're like, okay, whatever,
right.
Like kind of aloof or just not really caring about things.
Right.
When you're younger, you have to learn that that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we're talking about that one today.
Yeah. And you think about adaptability when, if a student's facing something new or different in a standardized test, or they're facing something new or different with the daily schedule, and if they get thrown off, letting our kids reflect on how they can be more adaptable is going to help them be more successful in the classroom, be more successful on tests, be more successful in just kind of everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
And it's going to look different from, in elementary through kind of middle school and high school. And we're going to give some kind of different examples of that as we kind of go through. Pam, when you think of like elementary kind of adaptability, what do you kind of have in mind?
Yeah, and I was looking for different kind of thinking about ages. When you think about elementary, it's really working on being more open-minded, maybe flexible, and then starting to learn how to problem solve. Because that's not something that is natural to all people.
Sure.
And the emotional regulation,
yes.
Because I think that's huge, because you don't understand how to do that yet.
Right.
Learning to collaborate, and then using your curiosity and persistence, and actually knowing that is being adaptable.
Sure.
And then when you get into middle school, where you have other things going on,
Right.
it becomes a little bit more of that independent decision making instead of other people kind of making decisions for you, because teachers expect you to do more on your own. And okay, if you have to study, you know that you have to study. You've got a test, so you kind of have to be better about decision making. Starting to use those critical thinking skills. The emotional maturity is starting to get a little bit better. So that's something that helps with adaptability. And then one of the things I looked up was social flexibility, and something, again, I didn't even really think about, but kind of dealing with those changing social dynamics,
Right.
And different diverse peer groups that you end up in, and then being able to resolve conflicts with like empathy and communication skills, and then time management. That I didn't learn that until I was like an adult, but you know, that is very helpful if you are too adaptable. Time management is important, and then growth mindset, and that's, I think we start growth mindset conversations in elementary.
Yes,
so that's really helpful.
Developing that, and when you get to high school, then it's really about self-regulation and autonomy, and we'll talk about that as we go through all of our different work and life skills.
Yes.
Advancing the problem solving and taking those skills and actually creating solutions, I think, is also something important there. Emotional resilience, you're going to go through a ton of up and downs in high school.
Yes.
Having some interpersonal adaptability, working with different people and learning how to, as they go out into the work and life world, and how do they going to, work with all kinds of different people, and then also balancing their life with, they're going to may have jobs, and they've got to have athletics, and they've got school, and they've got friends, and they got all the other things going on. So how can they, teaching them to balance those things as well.
Yes. So there are lots of different levels.
Exactly. And so we're going to just throw in some kind of things that you can do to help kind of build some of those adaptability skills. And one of the things I like to look at is how can we take our subject and then, create some project-based learning, and then how can we make it cross-curricular? I think those two things really help build those adaptability skills as you're moving through as well. And anytime that I can build in any kind of art or maker or anything like that, that allows for some of those adaptability skills to kind of thrive, I think. If you do a science project, an art project where they're designing and adapting plant habitats or animal habitats, and how can they change based off those climate conditions, and have them think about how animals are adaptable, and then let them have that reflection moment. We're going to talk about some methods to, assess, adaptability, and having that ability to kind of self-reflect on your own adaptability.
Yes.
And then project-based learning is huge for me. As I love project-based learning, and I thought it was the best ability to build project-based learning, or to build adaptability. And one of the things that I like to do is I would throw in like a challenge into the middle of a project. So we may be like a couple days in, and I'm be like, all right, I need you are going to have to shift over now to this team and develop this. And, one of the best ones we did a CoSpaces. If you don't know CoSpaces, you build virtual worlds. And so I built this scenario where we've got, I had two teams. I need, and I'm the customer, and I need a museum for this particular president. And so they had to build this virtual museum for this president, and I got two different teams. And so I had, two people that were the builders of the virtual world, and everybody else was research, or they were the camera people, or the, people that were going to be
jobs.
Everybody had their different jobs. Well, in the middle of the job, I switched people, and they had to teach each other about this particular skill or this particular thing. That builds that adaptability in there. So it was just one of those things that you can throw little wrinkles into projects. They don't have to be huge, and obviously you're going to scale it. I taught secondary, so I can be a little more, little more aggressive with that adaptability than maybe with our littles. So.
But it gives students confidence too. So the things that you didn't think you could do when you're in a smaller group, to be able to be adaptable, it can build confidence as well.
Yeah, and so if you're, thinking about how can I put some strategies in there, maybe with your K2, once you kind of feel like your expectations, I know that's big, building those expectations and those procedures and things like that. But, as you move on, maybe, start building in where they could have flexible seating options or circle time, or let them pick a different spot and and ask them how they feel, and let them talk about that, and how they can learn what that feeling of uneasiness is and how they can overcome it and be adaptable.
Right. Reflection is really helpful. And I do think there are a lot of teachers that do that, ask those reflective questions. And I don't don't think you realize that that's building their adaptability.
Sure. Build it into writing. Your 3 through 5, the what if scenarios and story writing are huge when it comes to adaptability. And then your middle, you've got all kinds of digital citizenship discussions and scenarios where you can talk about being adaptable. And then when you get to your high school 9-12, how can we come up with debate topics, mid discussion, have them switch perspectives. Maybe, all right, now I need you to argue the other side of what you were just defending, or the other, flip opinions really quick and build that adaptability there. So, what about some like standards-based activities, Pam? What have you seen?
Well, I think we have things like math word problems with just different like changing variables.
Yeah.
Like, we've got an example, we put it in the show notes. Like if you had 5 apples and you give 2 away, how many would you have left?
Sure.
And then change it to what if you had 5 cookies instead? I mean, it doesn't sound like adaptability, but it's just changing your mindset.
Yep. And that's huge for littles, just having them just changing those little variables sometimes can throw them off, but teaching them that it's the same thing. And that's another great adaptability skill as well. So, and then your daily practice, maybe work in a flexible Friday where classroom routines are intentionally altered to build those adaptability skills. And again, that's another one of those that just a quick little 5-minute change. We're not talking about huge amounts of time here. We're not talking about getting away from your curriculum or changing your pacing, just throwing in little bits and pieces to build those work and life skills so that that adaptability comes along. I think classroom management increases. I think that when students understand that, that how to be adaptable, I think your classroom just flows better and they're going to be more successful at everything, and they're going to learn better. And that's what this is all about. So.
And they generally have, even if you do switch things around, they usually have certain things that are done throughout the week. So the order doesn't necessarily have to stay the same. So changing it up a little bit, it does help.
Yeah. And then providing assessment adaptations, encourage flexible thinking, providing choice, with a choice board, that builds adaptability.
Yes.
And that's an easy way to build in some adaptability. Use Magic School AI, get that little choice board in there, and then have them, again, that reflect upon it as well. Real world applications. We talked about that with my CoSpaces project. And another thing I think teachers can do, and this happens inevitably every year, is that internet goes out. Right. You've got this great internet project, not everything is, but today is the day we needed our internet, and it goes out. Right. So what's the solution? Have a plan B, right? Exactly. Have that plan B. And I think as a teacher, you have to show adaptability, and you have to talk about and almost like talk through it with your students. All right, here's where I'm being adaptable, right? And we're all going to be adaptable, and we're going to have to, your kids are seeing this, and they're saying, okay, so that's what adaptability looks like, and talk through it, and it's okay.
Yeah, being an example of not freaking out.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So
it's not always easy, but
right. And that goes back to, I think, the classroom environment where you're creating one that is, and I always say, embraces the chaos, but in a way, that's what you have to do. The uncertainty that comes with life, right? Teaching that this is the classroom where we can do that, and that starts from the very beginning, creating this culture where everything's a learning opportunity. I think is a huge skill that it will benefit our students, and help them, again, get those deeper learning and increase test scores and do all the other things that come along with it. So we talked about, again, the growth mindset. I think we can always see that one teacher that we've got on our team that just loves, learning and growth mindset and change, and is completely acceptable with being adaptable. And then you've also seen that person that's a little more rigid, a little more hesitant to change, and those types of things. And everybody's different. And we're not saying that it's always bad to be resistant to change, but whenever a teacher, I think, can share their adaptability, like we've talked about, solve a problem out loud with tech issues or anything like that, and work with their students, and showing that adaptability is a huge part of it as well. So.
Yeah. And I know there are so many resources for growth mindset in general. So that would be fairly easy to find.
Yeah. What ways have you seen kind of measuring adaptability? So
as far as measuring it, I mean, you could always do, I think, self-reflection, journals, things like that. That's always my favorite. I've done sketchnoting in the past with teachers and students, and they seem to love that. And that could be kind of a mix between as far as if it's something that you're discussing that you already did in class, and then adding that reflection to go along with it.
Yes.
So it's kind of a combination
Right.
of the two.
Yeah, my students, we did portfolios, and then one of the key components of the portfolio was they had to do a reflection about, all right, what did I learn through this project, and then what work and life skill did I develop during this.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole paragraph they had to create in their portfolio that reflected on, all right, this is the work and life skill I used, this is how I used it. And I would say that adaptability was probably the least used. I mean, a lot of times it was, yeah, we communicated great with my partner, or we did great collaboration, but sometimes having to force that, all right, let's think about adaptability. But yeah, anytime they're thinking about adaptability, because it's not something I think we think about a lot. I think of this list, it's probably the one that we probably don't register or reflect on. But it's huge when it comes to peer feedback on how adaptable were my partners, how adaptable was I, right, to them. So think about that as a great self-reflection, and then creating a rubric that actually has adaptability in the rubric. So they have to think about that adaptability as they're going through the project.
Right. And I like the idea of kind of having this up and being intentional of bringing it back into your everyday practices, just because it's not something you really think about, like you said. If you have that up in the room and you're using that as a part of the reflection, I like that idea.
And whenever you've got, a writing prompt, have them write and reflect about a pivot moment in their life, or when they had to be adaptable, or, you can use those TDWs and use that, create a dialogue where, a student had to be adaptable to some situation, right? And that's a great way to build that skill, let them think about adaptability and internalize what it is to kind of build that adaptability into their lessons as well. So
throw a little pivot meme in there. The kids would appreciate that, right?
I don't know if they know the friends or not.
That's okay. It would still work. The teachers would appreciate that.
I think most of them. That is one of the most famous episodes. That is probably 100%. So, I love adaptability, and I think it's, again, like I said a couple times, it's very underutilized. But I think when you see it in work and life, I think you see a successful person.
Yes.
And that's what we're trying to build. We're trying to get, we're trying to help our students become the best versions of themselves. And I think one of the best versions of yourself is someone who's adaptive to all situations, and not only survives, but thrives, right? Creates solutions, creates a more positive situation instead of being negative on it. And so, take a moment, let the students reflect on their adaptability, make sure that you're intentional in showing adaptability. And don't start huge. We're going to automatically, I'm just going to throw this crazy wrench into the, I want the line to go this way or that way, or, you don't have to go crazy, but start small. Just do a little think of adaptability, let them talk about what it means to be adaptable, and see what kind of happens with that.
Yeah, it could be great.
Yeah. And if you've got other adaptability stories or anything like that, we'd love to hear them.
Strategies.
Strategies, things that you're doing, projects, share with us what you're doing. We'd love to give you a shout out on the podcast. Email us and share your adaptability stories with us all the time. So it's just one of those really, I think, cool things when you see it in work and life, and you can recognize it in people, but sometimes you don't think about of how well and how successful they did it. And again, it looks different across all the different ages and grade levels, but it's one of those work and life skills that I love to see when it's in action. So
I agree.
Good. All right. Well, definitely make sure that you check out the show notes. In the show notes, we have a link in there to the Unified Talent class. You get every 2 episodes, you fill out a Google form showing us what you learned, what's your takeaways, and you get 1 hour of renewal credit. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube or Spotify so that you get new episodes. You can, again, watch right on your phone and Spotify, videos right in there as well, or just listen in your car. Or again, we're found on YouTube as well, so that you get the latest episodes of the podcast as we go through our work and life skills series. I'm excited about all the other different life skills we'll get to highlight throughout the year, especially when we get down to collaboration, which will be the last one. So not that the other ones aren't great, but I think when we get to collaboration, we're going to be able to highlight a lot of ways that technology is going to be able to help with building a lot of those things as well. And, I guess one thing we did, one of the things we also didn't mention is that even just incorporating just a little bit of technology into your lesson builds adaptability, right?
Yes.
Taking that one thing that we've always done this way, and now let's add a little bit of technology to it,
Right.
is another great way to build adaptability. So reach out to your ILC. We'll be more than happy to help integrate technology with what you're doing. It doesn't take any more time. It goes right along with your curriculum, your scope and sequence. It goes right into what we're doing, but just building in that little bit of technology, having them figure out something a little bit differently, that's adaptability as well.
It is.
So we hope to hear from you and reach out to your ILC so that we can get some adaptability going on in your classroom. So Pam, thanks for being here. Hope everybody enjoyed this episode. Hope everybody looks forward to the next Work and Life Skills series. Until next time, keep innovating.
Bye.